Welcome back to another exciting edition of the Renatus J.A.M. My name is Jay Stark.
And I'm Matt Snyder.
And we are just thrilled to be back with you once again. Matt, I got to ask you real quick before we introduce our guest for the day. Shoot. I'm not going to shoot at you. I just want to ask you.
Shoot your question.
Oh, there we go.
Yes.
So we're just coming off of Memorial Day weekend.
Yes, we are.
And you are looking like you got just sun-kissed over the weekend.
I did.
What'd you do that was exciting?
Well, I spent most of it out in the sun. Yeah, go figure. So
thank you for pointing out the obvious.
I spent like 90% of it between a little green motorcycle and a Polaris Razor.
All right.
Yeah. So on a track and on a mountain and
you know what?
all over the place, man.
I just realized that is like the perfect segue to rub in who our next guest is.
Who's our next guest?
Our next guest, our featured guest for this podcast, loves being able to go out into the mountains in a Razor, have a little bit of me time. That's where he does his pondering and everything else. And now coming to us live from the sunny beaches of Florida is none other than Woody Woodward. Woody, how you doing, my friend?
Hey, guys.
Hey, Woody.
It's doing good, man. Good to be here.
Woody, I have a picture of you out at the sand dunes, probably like 8 feet high in your Razor. I think if you remember that day, you were like, I have to hit it at 50. Like we were this dune. I mean, 50 miles an hour across sand is so fast.
Was that on the bottom of Sand Mountain?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
I remember that.
Yes, it was.
I remember that.
On the left-hand side.
Bombing that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways.
We were taking bets on the sideline. We're just like, what are the odds that Woody's going to wreck on this next one?
I was watching the nose start to die because, the motors in the front, those things, it'd start to fly and the front end comes down. And I was like, if he gets too much air, he's going to have too much time and the front end is going to be straight into the ground and he's going to be, flipping that thing. So anyways, I'm glad you didn't flip it.
That's funny. That takes me off course here just a little bit. But let me ask you, Woody. So I remember a story about you and Bob going Razor running where he said, just follow me and you'll be fine. And then he turned around and said, okay, now I'll follow you.
And within 5 minutes, I rolled my Razor.
Oh, no.
So, note to self, don't follow Woody. That was my takeaway of that day.
That was my takeaway. That's funny.
How many times have you rolled a Razor?
Only that one time.
Really?
That one time.
That's impressive because I've been behind you and I've seen you drive. So,
it's close many times. Very close many times. That was the only. In fact, I that's the same Razor that Eric Counts rolled. I sold it to a guy in my neighborhood, and he rolled it twice. So that Razor has been rolled 4 times. Stayed away from the 2-seaters.
Wow. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Unless it's a Maverick. The Mavericks seem to have a wide enough wheelbase that they don't want to. But the 2-seater Razors don't like it.
It's funny because I was going to ask, you've only rolled it once, but how many times has it been rolled? And you totally just answered that question. So that's funny. Everyone has walked away from that thing unharmed to this point, though. I mean,
fortunately, yes.
You were unscathed. As far as I know, Eric was unscathed.
I think Michael Huggins' head still hurts.
His head?
Yeah.
Oh, was Michael in there with Eric?
He was in the passenger seat and he hit his head against the ground. So.
Okay, that is the number one worst place to be in a Razor is the passenger when somebody wrecks.
Right? So, yeah. Anyways, those were some good times. I got sun-kissed. I had a fantastic Memorial Day weekend.
Nice.
And we were just all over the place. We got really, really, really stuck. We spent like an hour and a half getting unstuck.
Like in mud stuck or
in snow, like 3.5 feet of snow. Yeah, we were up. Yeah, we went very high in elevation. So
nice.
Yeah. Anyways,
I bet Woody
I'll have
didn't
to send you the videos, Woody.
Nice.
You'll enjoy it.
I bet Woody didn't have that problem getting stuck in snow over the weekend.
No, I think it was 85 degrees here on Memorial Day weekend. Yeah. Wow. No snow down here in Florida. No elevation here in Florida.
How humid is it though?
Today is 74%. I've actually been tracking that to see at what point do I actually pass out. 77. No, I have. No. Every morning I get up, I'm like, hey, at what point do I move away? Like, it's way too hot. Today's 74. It was okay. A little warm. It was all right.
So, that reminds me of Cancun. The closest I've ever seen my dad to swearing. Okay, and I'm serious. We were in Cancun. We got to the hotel, and there was a mix-up or whatever, and so there was no bellman or anybody to help us with our bags or our luggage. And so, I was like, let's just go. Like, let's just wheel them to where, like, instead of waiting and them figuring whatever. Let's just go. So we wheel them, and we get to this. It's we're on the 3rd floor. And so we've got to carry our luggage up the stairs. Well, it is 91 degrees outside and 90% humidity. Okay. So it is brutal. Like 91 with 90% humidity is probably equivalent to like 108 degrees here in Utah. So, you know what I mean? Like,
no, it's not. I would take 108 with 0% humidity over like I think you're right. 80 and above with any humidity.
I've been in Scottsdale when it's like 117, and it's still not as bad as that Cancun 90% humidity. Anyways, closest I've ever seen.
All the humidity, you can't breathe. The thing, it's so hard.
We were soaked. I mean, by the time we got to the 3rd floor with our luggage, soaked. Just anyway.
So I grew up right off the Great Lakes. And so humidity is familiar to me.
Yeah.
And when we moved out to the desert, that was like my number one thing. I'm like, get away from the humidity because it's miserable. It's bad in the summer. It is worse in the winter.
Well, because it's cold. It chills you to the bone.
When you get that wind chill factor going on,
bitter.
All right.
But you don't have any of that down there.
No snow.
No floor.
Nope, not yet. It's good.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. So let me ask you this question, Mr. Woodward. You know that one of my favorite people of all time is named Daniel. His name is Daniel Rudiger. Everybody calls him Rudy Rudiger. And it took me literally until I saw you sign your name one time before I realized that your name is not Woody. So how did Woody Woodward come about? Was that something that everybody called you as a kid, or?
Wait, so I'm the youngest of 5, and last name's Woodward. It's easy to drop the word and add a Y. It's Woody. So it was the 3rd grade. I'm the youngest of 5. I wear a T-shirt that says Woody on it. It's my brother's basketball jersey. And from the 3rd grade on, it was Woody. But my signature actually is S. Woody. It's an abbreviation. My real name is Stephen Woodward, but I just signed S. Woody. And I always have since middle school. I've signed S. Woody.
All right. Woody did not stick with any of your siblings, just with you.
My middle brother Tom, all of his friends still call him Woody.
All right. So every time that I've read a bio of you, it talks about that by 25 you're a millionaire, or you're a high school dropout. That's usually the first thing it says. 25 you're a millionaire, 26 you're broke, and then talks about all the successes that have come on after that. So let me ask you first, how many times have you been what you would qualify as broke?
A better question: what do you qualify as broke, or what do you define broke as?
That might be better.
How many times have you been it?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so broke to me is when you literally have got nothing left, and you're either on government assistance, borrowing money from your parents or credit cards to pay bills to get by, where you literally have nothing left, and there's nothing in the future that is going to get you out of this hole that you were in. At least 3 times. I have been poor at least 20 times, but broke is where you got nothing left 3 times.
Well, so what's poor? What's poor?
Poor is where you've got like $1,000 left, and you've got $5,000 in bills, but you're not sure how you're going to pull it off. But you might get a gig in about a month or 2, and you're okay, and you're 30 days late on something, but you get through.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
All right. So what? It seems like you're the type of guy that instead of just saying, oh, I'm broke, I'm a terrible person, and hiding in the corner and just basically giving up, you're the type of guy that learns a lesson from that experience, applies it moving forward, and then, you know, if you fail a second time or if you go broke a second time, you learn from that, you move forward even more powerfully. So how do you do that? How do you learn that lesson and move forward without losing your optimism or losing your what's the word I'm looking for? Your chutzpah.
No, I know what you mean. Because I get this question a lot. I had a discovery when I was in my 30s about this. So my older brother, he's 8 years older than I am, highly educated, very successful individual, could have gone and done anything. He went to medical school, the whole bit. And then he decided to be an entrepreneur. And I was talking to him one time. I said, Dave, you know what your number one problem is you have options. So when I was growing up, I had gotten kicked out of 2 middle schools. I dropped out of high school. I didn't learn to read till I was 19. So I didn't have options. Theoretically, I should be in jail or dead based off statistics or only making, I think it's $18,000 a year. And to me, I didn't have options. There was no go get a real job. No one's going to pay me for anything. So when I would go broke, to me, it wasn't a matter like, oh, shoot, I'm going to go do something else and be a doctor now or an accountant now. I only had one choice, and that was to always keep going. The difference as well is I don't believe that my mistakes define me. And to my core, I believe that. I believe these are situations in time and not a condition of who I am as a human being. So the same way as when you're rich, it doesn't mean you're great, doesn't mean that you're this incredible human being who's got figured it out. No, it just means you didn't go broke that month. That's all it means. So to me, whether I have money or I don't have money, my mental ego is still the same. I just have to keep hustling.
I like it. I like that a lot. So give me kind of a view into what that was like the first time that you were broke. Because I imagine, let me ask you this question. I know that you're married and I know that you have kids. At what point did you get married? How old were you when you got married?
I laugh now. We hit 25 years this year. So
nice. Congratulations.
Thank you. And for those who don't know me, I have a very tough time sitting still. So we were counting the other night. We've had over 40 cars and we've moved over 26 or 27 times in that 25 years of marriage.
Yep.
So people always ask me, how are you married to the same woman all of these years? I said, she's as crazy as I am. That's why it works. But I met my wife on a Wednesday. We went out Thursday and Friday and I proposed on Sunday. And she said yes. And then we got married within 3 or 4 months after that. So I was at the time 21. She was 18. She'd already graduated high school for a year. And I got married right after my 22nd birthday. She got married right before her 19th birthday.
All right. So how then the first time that you went broke, you were like 25. I think that's what I've read on your bios. Is that correct?
The numbers are 26 and 27. So dropped out of high school at 16, millionaire at 26, broke at 27.
Gotcha.
So we had been married about 5 years.
What kind of, I imagine, so for me, that's a lot of stress thinking, I've got responsibilities, take care of my wife, take care of my kids and all of that. So how did you move through that with, I guess I'm just asking how you made it, what, if there was any secret sauce to your getting through it, or if it really was just, I'm back against the wall, I have to.
Put us there. So what would
you Wow, you guys are going to make me cry. I thought this was going to be fun. You guys start with the heavy stuff.
Sorry.
We do it all here.
All right. So here's the whole story, and it was horrible. It was the whole .com bomb. So my 2 business partners at the time, we were in the process of taking our company public. We had already had investment of over $2.5 million. My stocks in the company worth over $1 million. My business partners were buying me out for 7 figures. So it was, in theory, $1 million status at 26. The bomb happens, and both of my business partners filed bankruptcy, leaving me with some of the debt, though I hadn't been in the company for a while. My 6-month-old son at the time ended up getting Parkinson's disease medication at age 6 months and was put in the hospital. The doctor said, you know what, 24 hours will tell whether he lives or he dies. Oh, God. All this is happening while we just we didn't lose our house. We moved out of our house. We had to move into my parents' unfinished basement into a 10-foot by 10-foot room. So we went from a 4,200 square foot home on a green belt on a lake, private community, beautiful. It was our second home, actually. We had another investment property. And then we had to leave all of it and we sold our cars to pay bills. And so we were carless, living in my parents' unfinished basement. And then I find out my son's going to not make it through the night. So beg and plead with God all night long, save my son, take me, the whole scenario. You're crying, you can't sleep. Come to find out, he makes it. Fortunately, he rebounds. He's 20 years old now. He's great. But in that process, there was one statement my wife said to me that kind of changed everything. I wasn't working. I wasn't doing anything because we're just trying to regather what we're going to do. And she said, if you could do anything and you knew you would not fail, what would you do? And I thought, well, real estate. I love real estate. I love designing homes, architecture. I just love it. She said, okay, great. I know mortgages. You like real estate. You go get your real estate license. You become an investor, whatever you want to do. I'll figure out how to process loans. At that time, we put $900 down for what's called point software. That $900 to me felt like $9 million. I didn't have $900. I had nothing to my name. It's the first truly official. We're trying to get what's called WIC, which was government assistance for our son. We can't afford diapers. I mean, it's rough. One of the creditors calls me up, says, hey, your business partners owe us 50 grand. What are you going to do about it? I'm like, they've both filed bankruptcy, so they're discharged. Within, I think it was a couple hours, my other bank calls me up and said, if we combine all of your accounts, there's $4. What do you want us to do? And it was one of those moments. And as I reflect, now this is 20 years later, and as I reflect back on it, there are those moments in your life where you say, am I going to keep going, or am I just going to tuck my tail? Now, I physically, and I mean this legitimately, I don't have any other options. Like I can't, if I were to go apply for a job, I have never worked for anyone for 25 plus years. No one is hiring me for anything. So literally, I would be lucky to work at Walmart at $10 to $12 an hour. So I know that no matter what, I have to start over on my own accord, not through anybody or anything else. So we picked up ourselves, we did some real estate, learned how to do some processing, got my real estate license. What I learned though, which I consider one of my greatest lessons I've ever learned, is what I call the BBB, the business behind the business. So Shay, that's my wife, she's processing loans. I'm her gopher boy. I'm dropping off the checks at closing to the broker. And I'm looking at it and they're $5,000, $7,000, $10,000. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, I saw you do all the work. You did the credit card processing, titles, you did everything. You got paid $350. He did nothing and he's getting $5,000, $7,000, and $10,000.
Right.
So I said, what's the difference? And she said, well, he's the broker. He found the loan. I said, you mean to tell me if I go find loans, we're going to make that kind of money? She said, yeah. So that day, literally, I went to downtown Salt Lake because I was living in Utah at the time. I signed up, got a mortgage license on the spot. There was no test. I mean, that's the whole reason why 2008 happened, was because of people like me. You just go get loans.
Thanks, Woody.
So, yeah, it's me. And literally in the first month, I think I made $7,500. Second month was 15 grand, up to 25 grand. And then we expanded into 7 states. We did over $100 million in real estate transactions and built this little real estate empire. And that totally changed my life, learning the business behind the business. Then in 2006, I saw the writing on the wall. I knew the housing market was going to crash because it mirrored the mortgage industry, or the .com, .bomb stocks perfectly. Right. And so I got out of that and got into what I'm doing now.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've never heard that part of your story before. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So, oh man. So, a lot of the interviews that we've done, Matt and I, a lot of the people that we've talked with, they don't talk about goals as much as they talk about who you're going to become, right? So they talk about becoming the kind of person that can allow real wealth to be created in their lives, becoming this, that, and the other. So through that process, who did you become?
A hot mess. Let's be honest. If anyone knows me, I'm a hot freaking mess. And I embrace that wholeheartedly. I don't try to be anything that I'm not. I don't have anything left on me to think that I'm cool, literally. When the second go around, so that's the first broke. Let's fast forward a little bit. 2008 happens. We have invested everything we believe we can invest into this movie we were doing. We ended up getting 37 credit cards. I think the lowest balance was like 15 grand on it. We had one balance, 135 grand. And we were investing in this movie based on the intellectual property that we had at the time. It's called Biology. It was all about what drive is today. We put everything into this. I'll never forget, it was August 2nd when we had our movie premiere. Huge movie premiere. It was fantastic. We had the red carpet. It was everything. And that was like 2 months from the whole housing market bubble bursting. Yeah. We lose everything. We lose the house. We lose the cars. I owe 37 creditors, and they call me 2 and 3 times a day. So I'm getting on average 100 calls a day. I'm getting so much mail that I literally quit opening it. And then that starts a whole nother train wreck where we lose our house and our cars, not just one car, cars, S plural. And in all those experiences, I literally don't have anything left of my identity that I care about.
Yeah, that really strips you down.
Yeah, I mean, I am who I am, period. I make no excuses for it.
You learn who you are in those kinds of instances.
Yeah. You know, I've heard this a couple of different times, that life experience doesn't define you, it reveals you.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that you went through that revelation process relatively early in life and were able to know exactly who you are and who you're not. And I think that's one of the ways that we start to become who we want to create massive success, is to really, really be honest with ourselves to the point of being completely wide open and willing to change what needs to change and keep the same what we can keep the same. That's pretty cool. So let me ask you about, so you talked about the movie Iology, and I know that most of the people inside of our community, our family, are familiar with the Emotional Fingerprint. So is Iology, which one came first?
So full story, January 21st of 2006, I'm writing my first book called Millionaire Dropouts. My wife said, I really feel inspired. You need to read How to Win Friends and Influence People. At this time, I'd already written 1,000 biographies, mini biographies, of course, 1,000 biographies on people who dropped out, and was cataloging them, putting them in Excel, the whole thing. And I told my wife, like, I can't read one more thing. My brain is bleeding. I'm out. She said, I'll take the kids, go to the library, just read it. 2nd chapter, 1st page, left-hand side, quote by Dr. John Dewey that says, the deepest urge in human nature is the desire to feel important. Now, in my brain, I'm thinking, there's no way that's right. That's got to be wrong. I need to go prove him wrong. Now, he's been dead for 56 years, but I got to go prove him wrong. So I go to the local university. I start interviewing people at random. Over a long period of time, I actually interviewed over 2,500 people, and I found that, yeah, everybody has 7 key characteristics that make them feel important. So the original brand was I theory, the theory of importance. And then it became the law of importance. And then Iology was just the study of importance. And then I got a huge book deal on it. And they said, well, do you have any other names you're thinking about? Because we don't like the law of importance, because that was the same time that law of attraction was getting some traction.
Gotcha.
I'm like, oh, yeah, I don't want to be branded with that.
Right.
So I came up with the Emotional Fingerprint. And then inside Emotional Fingerprint is Drive. And now Drive has become its own category outside of Emotional Fingerprint.
So as you were creating the Emotional Fingerprint, as you were walking through that, and that was the first time that you and I met. It was through the Emotional Fingerprint. Did you recognize the foundations for Drive in that, or did you find more, or was it more of a reflection later where you're going back, you're reading the material going, hey, I'm starting to see this become apparent?
So it was a cool experience. I've had some really unique experiences. And for those of you as entrepreneurs where you're gunning for it 24/7, you have those moments where you're like, oh, I'll remember this forever. I had just gotten the book deal. We were in the process of losing our house. So I thought, okay, it's a 6-figure book deal in 2009. This is going to save me. I'm going to be great. We're going to be fine. And I got the book deal, and instantly I knew it wasn't going to work. I'm like, you have those gut feelings, especially if you've ever been a creator. You're tapped into your gut. And I thought, what's not going to work? And when I have those gut feelings, I'm like, okay, research it. And I had this thought, go back to your journal. So I went back. I always journal. I have over 50 journals now. And I'm reading all my journals. And back then, the way I used to do it is I'd say, okay, tell me a time an experience you had that made you feel important, made you feel on top of the world. And then you'd write it down. And then that would come up with the I theory or the law of importance. And I knew that I couldn't do that in the book because the process took usually 30 minutes. I thought no one's going to do that in the first chapter. They're just going to throw the book away. So I went through all my journals. I wrote down everybody's answer. And fortunately, I had a website at the time that had tens of thousands of answers on it. And I just put an Excel spreadsheet and I just did a search. And what I saw was Drive, that everybody said those same 35 words over and over and over again. And then I saw the organization of them. And it was one of those really gifts. So I always have note cards near me. Like I even have one right now. And so I wrote all 35 down. I laid them out on the table. And I literally saw this pattern left to right, the D, the R, the I, the V, the E. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is what drives human behavior. This is emotional fingerprint drives human behavior. So in the drive book, we had them then identify their drive and talking about, this is what emotionally moves you. Fast forward years down the road, I then realized, this is also what moves other people from a business side. So I always taught just on the internal and external personal development, how that shows up in business. So I've always coached CEOs. But then I thought, wait a minute, how do we use this to help other people in the buying process? And that's where Drive has really now taken a whole different angle than what Emotional Fingerprint was designed for.
Oh, that's fascinating. That is really cool. So tell me about, I know that in this process, somewhere in the middle here, that's when you met Bob for the first time, right?
Yes.
So tell me how
here's something even cool.
Okay, go ahead.
Here's something cool about that. So the date was July 9th of 2009, I believe. And July 9th is Bob's birthday. So I literally discovered Drive on Bob's birthday. And I wrote in my journal, because I always journal, this is going to change the world. I don't know the meaning of this yet, but I know that it's going to be super significant down the road. Fast forward like 7 years later, Bob and I are at an event. We're talking. He's like, well, what did you just discover Drive? And I say the date. And he goes, that's my birthday. So I got home. I opened up my journal. I take a picture to it. I said, hey, man, happy birthday, because this Drive is going to take over the world because of Renatus. And it happened on your birthday.
Nice. That is
crazy.
Awesome. So Drive was literally born on Bob's birthday.
Yep.
What are the odds, man?
So
that's crazy.
So how did you get introduced to Bob?
Richard and Kendall Stock. I was in California at the time, and I was doing Emotional Fingerprint. They invited me to come speak at an event that Bob was hosting at the time in Newport Beach, California. Did phenomenally well. We had 4 different breakout sessions. It really resonated. In that time, I always have toys with me. In fact, I got a toy right here as we're talking. I always have toys. And I had a Rubik's Cube, and I gave it to Caden. And I said, you know what? Because I know Caden was there, and I didn't know Caden from anybody, but I knew it was Bob's son, and he was bored. I said, hey, man, here's a Rubik's Cube. Have fun with this. Lo and behold, once again, how time comes full circle. I think it was like 7 or 8 years later. I'm in Bob's kitchen. I think, Matt, you were there that time. We're going through Emotional Fingerprint for the whole family. Yep. And Caden's there. He's like, wait a minute, you're the guy who gave me the Rubik's Cube. I'm like, yes, small world.
Yep.
That's funny. I'll never forget. So the national conference is kind of our big event for the year. And honestly, it consumes my every waking moment for the first quarter of the year until we actually have it.
Yes, it does. So I can attest to this.
I'm not bragging. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
But I'm sitting at the national conference, not last year, but the year before. So this would have been let me think here, 2018.
Yes.
And I am sitting back in my booth where I always sit. I'm calling the show. I'm doing my thing. And, I don't sleep during the national. So it's basically, 4 waking days for me of high stress, high adrenaline, high energy,
yep.
Go. And then Saturday night's a total release. But I remember sitting there, and Woody, I don't know if you even remember this, but
I totally remember this.
Oh, okay, awesome. So you walked up to me. This is I'm trying to think. I think it was Friday during one of the breaks. We're in the middle of the national conference, and my stress level, I'm at a 9, right?
Yep.
I was up there, and Woody walks up to me and he goes, hey, I don't know. I was just sitting at the store and I saw this and I just thought somebody's going to need this today. And he hands it to me and he goes, you're the guy. You need this today.
What was it?
Don't forget to play. It was a little quadcopter. He had bought me this little remote control quadcopter that I could just mess around with.
Yeah.
And I remember that that just broke my frame right there. Right? My stress level dropped. My serotonin went up. I was happy. I started laughing so hard that I cried. Woody's probably like,
what is wrong with this
what
guy?
did I just do to this guy? But so it's funny that you mentioned toys because that totally just, it gave me a whole new frame right there in the middle of the national conference. And the rest of the conference was fantastic. They typically go so much better than I stress out about. However, that was just one moment during the national where you created a place in me that I will never forget. And I appreciate
you've done that for me many times, so thank you.
Awesome. Well, so let's keep going here, because I am so fascinated by. You have a question, or?
No, I was just gonna say. I was just about to say pretty much the same thing. You're a fascinating person, right?
You are fascinating, and you know what?
I'm a hot mess, man. Let's just call it what it is.
You call yourself a hot mess, and yet I think that anybody who's watching us right now knows they can feel the brilliance that's shining through all of this. So I appreciate that. Let me ask you a little bit. Now, you talked about that you've done, you've read, thousands of biographies. And I know that as you were producing the Money Matrix for us, one of your go-tos, one of your favorite people to talk about was always Walt Disney.
Oh, yeah.
What is it about Mr. Disney that so resonates with you?
That's a great question. Honestly, like when you asked that question, I got chills up my spine. I love that man. Whenever someone asks you, who do you want to have lunch with? Walt. Hands down Walt every time. I don't care. I don't want to see my dead grandparents. I just want to see Walt. Like, let me just have lunch with Walt. That's all I care about.
So what makes Walt so special?
So the problem is I know the most about Walt of anybody. I've read everything about Edison and everything about Walt. And I think it all started from my first experience of going to Disneyland, feeling magic for the very first time. Our honeymoon. Oh, man, you want the worst story ever? Oh, my God.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, I totally forgot about this one. There's certain things I purposely blocked to protect myself. But so I get married to my wife. We don't know each other from Adam. We have no clue who each other are. We get married. I lose my wallet and all the money from the money they give you at the reception. We go to the airport, and I missed the flight because I love to run on the flight. This is back when you could literally just run on the flights and you didn't have much security. So that happens. We get to land in Anaheim. We're going to the Disney hotel. And I don't have my wallet. We have no money. We've lost everything. So now we actually got our luggage, and we hitchhike to the Disneyland hotel. We get to the Disneyland hotel. They won't let us in because we have no way to pay for it, and we have no ID. My wife breaks down, just loses it, because it's like 1 a.m. at this point. And I just begged the guy, I said, I don't care if you give me a closet, just let me sleep. It's somewhere. We'll deal with this in the morning. So fortunately, they gave us the room. And in the morning, my wife says, I just got to call my dad and he'll make it all better. And I said, if you call your dad, you have him come pick you up, because it's you and I, and we're getting through this together. And that defined our entire marriage from that point on. Wow. It has always been just her and I. We were on our honeymoon. We got in a fight, so I went to Disneyland by myself. Had a blast, cruising around Disneyland on my honeymoon, totally by myself.
Oh my gosh!
And from that point on, we've been to Disney. We moved to California for 10 years. Every Monday at 3:30, every Monday we would go to Disneyland. Then when we decided to sell everything and travel the world, we first came to Orlando so we could spend time at Disney World. Right now, I live about 1.7 miles from the gate of Disney World, and we always have. When we go to Paris, we go to Euro Disney. Just been a huge fan. But to answer your question full circle, it is his resilience to keep going when he has lost everything. Most people don't know that he's filed bankruptcy a couple of times. Most people don't know that he wasn't a good animator. He actually had other animators, Herb Iwerks, who did it. He just kept going. When he couldn't build Disneyland, didn't have the money, he cashed in his life insurance policy. He hawked everything. He sold a house. He did anything and everything to make his dreams a reality. And he has a quote that I love. He says, "It's nothing is better than doing the impossible every day." And so he always did. You think about, like, he's the first one to create an animated feature film. Before, they were just shorts. So the theme park is his invention. Pixar, Disney, the animated 2-hour film, that is his invention. The animatronics with robots, his invention. So everything he did had never been created. And that's where I resonate with it. I'm trying to create things that have never been done before on a daily basis, so I resonate. When things really took off for him and he was really successful, he bet his actual building, like he had his animation building, he bet everything on Snow White. And it's the first, feature film that ever been done. He almost lost all of it. So when I lost, oh man, you're making me cry. Oh, so I have little trinkets, little things that always remind me to keep going, because you know what it's like being self-employed. No one's going to give you the award for being, a great CEO. So I bought this 7 dwarves on a log when I had no money left, and I kept it in my office. I still have it to this day, to remind me that you bet it and you double bet it and you triple bet. You keep going, because at the end of the day, you are your only source. Like, no one is going to come to your house with the right check that will take care of you the rest of your life. And so to me, the most important investment you will ever make is in yourself.
That's awesome.
That's profound. That's great, Woody. That's real.
Yeah. Yeah, and Walt Disney, you're absolutely right. He constantly pushed boundaries further and further.
You look at Disney World, if I remember correctly, Disneyland is 87 acres. Disney World is 35,000 acres. He bought like a state. I mean, to own up that much land it's insane. And he did it secretly. He had different shell corporations buying all this land up to build Disney World. And he died before it was finished. And he turned to his brother Roy, who was always his partner. And 3 times on his deathbed, he said, Roy, promise me you'll finish it. I'll finish it. No, Roy, promise me. Like, tell me right now. I know I need you to tell me. He asked him 3 times. Then he passes away, and then at this opening ceremony of Disney World, one of the news anchors asked, isn't it too bad that Walt didn't get to see this? And Roy got really choked up. He said, the only reason that you get to see this is because Walt saw it first.
Yeah.
And it wasn't going to be called Walt Disney World. Roy made it absolutely law that it was called the Walt Disney World on every type of publication. It wasn't Disney World, it was Walt Disney's World. And then Roy actually died 2 months after he finished Disney World.
Oh, wow.
So his brother gave his life for his brother, which I think is a cool story.
Wow, I've never heard that before. That is a cool story.
I haven't either.
That is really neat. I'm starting to understand why it is that you're so attracted to how he lived his life, how he conducted himself. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, he played full out. I look at people. Another one of my favorite people is Richard Branson, billionaire out of UK. Both of those people, they're both directors. If you don't know Drive, it's the 5 personality types: DRIVE. D is for directors. I'm a director. Walt and Richard Branson directors. The thing about those gentlemen is they play by their own rules. Literally, the rules of society do not apply to them. They created their own boundaries, and they thought they were limitless. And I have tried my whole life to live the same way. And so to me, if you look at, I think the best advice you can ever give somebody is find a mentor, live or dead. Find everything out about them and emulate that life, and you'll be totally happy. And that's honestly what I've done.
I've heard that so many different times in different ways. That if you want to have the life that somebody lived, if you want to be, like them, you have to do what they did. You have to believe what they believed. You have to act as they acted in order to start creating the results that they were able to create. That's pretty awesome. So what you're trying to tell me is if I want to be like Woody, I have to be a hot mess.
Oh, it's easy. Just go out and get a criminal record, run away from home, shave your head, dye it pink, whatever. Yeah, it's easy.
Nice. I got a joke for you. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
All right. 6 out of 7 dwarves are not happy.
Oh, that was a dad joke right there.
Dadjokes.com.
Boom. Yes. All right. Okay. So let's just talk a little bit about, I've heard this story, and I don't know that I've ever heard it from you. So let me confirm this with you. A couple years ago, you went to Disneyland. And in true Woody fashion, you decide that you're going to take, now let's see, they don't call them employees, they call them staff members, right?
Yes.
Cast members.
Yeah. Cast members. That's what it is.
Yeah, cast members.
So you decide that you're going to take one of the cast member only entrances to try to shortcut around the park, right? But you weren't alone, right? Who all was with you?
We had Richard Stock, we had Nancy Rowe, Bob Snyder, and Eric Counts. And it was my turn to treat them at Disney and walk them around because everyone knows I'm a huge Disney fan. So I said, you guys come to Disney. We were, I think, doing the Southern California regionals. And I said, well, hey, we're going to be there. I'm going to Disney no matter what. You guys are welcome to come. So we go and I treated them to what a experience at Disney's like with Woody Woodward.
so
different than your normal
when I've heard this story told in the past, everybody just thought, oh yeah, he knows where he's going. He obviously knows some sort of a workaround here. He knows what he's doing.
He knows a shortcut.
And then all of a sudden you guys get stopped and everyone realizes Woody doesn't have a clue what he's doing. And you said something along the lines of, I've never made it this far before.
So I always go in the no matter what, like no matter where I am at Universal or Disney, anytime it says cast members only, I always go in. Like even with my kids in tow, no matter what, I always go. And I don't make it 3 feet in. Like I can't get past the curtain. There's always someone there. This one time, nobody was there. So we walked all the way behind, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. Like, we're going to see stuff we've never seen before. And we just waved at some employees. And my opinion is if you act like you own the place, they don't ever mess with you. So we just kept going, got around the other side. It was fantastic.
So wait a second. Did you guys get stopped then, or did you make it all the way through?
We made it all the way through. I think it's been so many years now. I remember seeing cast members. I remember them sitting having lunch on this little bench. And they might have talked to us, but we didn't stop, and we just kept going. They might have said, oh, you can't be here. We're like, oh, no problem. We're just going around the corner. We'll be out in 5 minutes. See you. Thanks. Bye. And just kept going.
Just act like you own the place, Matt.
Yep,
that's what you got to do.
Secret. That's the secret right there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man, that's hilarious. All right, so I know another tradition that you've recently started is Sturgis.
Yeah.
Oh.
So tell me about I think it was a Suzuki. Tell me about your green motorcycle that you had.
Oh, this is definitely gonna make me look like an idiot, which I'm not surprised at. So, long story short, we're sitting at one of the events in Cancun, and Bob and Scott said, hey, we should do Sturgis, and I am all about white trash events. Like, I love white trash events.
White trash
I go
events.
to the State Fair every year. I want to hang out with carnies. My first success in life literally was traveling from festival to festival, Renaissance festivals, in costume, selling juggling sticks. So at my core, hardcore white trash. So the second they said that, I'm like, oh, man, I've always wanted to go. I said, I'm totally in. So we go there. I bring my Suzuki Vulcan motorcycle, and Scott brings his buddy Willie. First day, just flying down the road. It starts raining. We're doing 95. We go to Mount Rushmore. The next day we're going, and there's these S curves, and all of a sudden, Willie goes off a cliff. And it is a full-blown cliff. I'm the last rider. I pull over, first responder. I'm literally holding onto branches, climbing down this mountain ridge. There's a river down below. He is like U-shaped over a tree. He's breathing. He's okay, but he's banged up. He's got some broken bones. We get him to the hospital like 3 hours later. We have to get a crane to pull out, or a tow truck with a winch all the way down, pull his motorcycle out of the ravine. It's destroyed. We go to the hospital, make sure he's safe. He's okay. We get him home. We throw him in the hotel. Next morning, I sit around the breakfast and said, okay, guys, I got to tell you something. I just bought this motorcycle 6 days ago. I don't have a motorcycle's license. I've never gone over 25 miles an hour. I've never ridden in the rain, driven at night, and I don't know what I'm doing out here. And we had just gone 95 miles an hour in the rain, and then looked at me and like, are you freaking an idiot? I'm like, yes, but I wasn't the one that crashed. It was Willie, so it's off me.
Oh.
I love the yes, but part of that story.
Exactly.
It is kind of a miracle that you did not.
Yes.
I should have been down that ravine on the first corner.
You should have. I mean, I've been riding a long time, and almost every time, if somebody crashes, it's the new guy. It's the guy that hasn't been riding very long.
It's the guy
trying to keep up with the group.
It's the guy who buys the emerald green Suzuki.
Right. Yeah.
And then to top it off, to make that story even worse, we're at another event, and Scott Rose says, hey, Woody, I'll bet you my title against my bike, against your bike, that I can lose more weight than you in 3 months. Because Ron Williams was on stage, our favorite guy. And I'm thinking, oh, yeah, I'll totally take that bet. What I should have said was, no, I'm going to hire Ron and lose the weight. And 3 months later, I transfer the title to him, and he picks up my motorcycle and then trades it in for a real bike.
Oh, man. That's funny. That is hilarious. That's funny. So I know that you guys, you bought Willie a balloon while you were there.
Yeah. So I like stupid stuff. I like things that make me laugh. And if it can embarrass someone in the process, it's even better. So we're walking by the gift shop, and I see this big old balloon that says, "Congratulations, it's a baby girl." So I buy this pink elephant, tie it to it, and I bring it in there and congratulate him. And he doesn't know this yet, and I don't think he's going to find out before it's done. I'm actually putting that picture in my new book on Drive about that story.
No way.
It's got him with that picture, and congratulations, Willie, you got a baby girl.
It's a girl.
Yeah, that picture floated around the internet quite a bit.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it did. And then poor Willie had to drive home all banged up because they didn't have the staff to take care of him there.
Oh yeah, because it's Sturgis, right? Yeah.
Sturgis, they don't fix you. They literally don't. Like, they didn't do anything for him. Unless you are bleeding out, Sturgis won't touch you. So he literally laid in the hotel room for 3 days while we kept riding every day because we're selfish men.
Man, that's
and then they load up, and he, if I remember correctly, Scott rode his motorcycle home, the one that Scott was on, and Willie physically had to drive the van home 1,200 miles with a broken shoulder collarbone.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, that's brutal.
That is.
That is brutal. So let me ask you about profits, because I know that profits it revolves around Drive, the 3 core classes that you've created, right? So tell us, how profits came about and how you see profits moving forward now that we have the ability to sell profits anywhere around the world.
Well, I want to first recognize Bob for being the vision of profits. He and I had a conversation, my very first experience at a leaders retreat in Cancun. Everyone's inside dancing, have a great time. And I love private time with individuals. Like, I like the big audience and crowd, that's fun, but I love nothing more than sitting around a campfire and having a conversation. So I grab Bob, we go for a walk around the property. We're sitting down on the curb, and I'll never forget. And I said, you know what? We need to create something that can be sold internationally. Because real estate can't, because of all the international laws, it's physically impossible. He goes, no, right. I know that. We got to create something. And I always look for the future, but plan for today. So I'm always reading forecasts, recessions, where's it going to be? I've gotten my, shoot off every recession. I thought, okay, the next one, we got to really figure out how to be ahead of the curve. And so every time we would go to Moab or Sturgis or on a razor ride, we actually did it for a mastermind session, for a 2-3 day mastermind, and to come up with these ideas. And so we've been talking about profits for literally 7 years. And we didn't have the name profits. It was just a matter of, okay, it's got to be intellectual, it's got to be business oriented.
Right.
And on these trips that we do 2-3 times a year, we literally would whiteboard it out, think it out, I'd journal it out. And then I'll never forget the discussion we had. And it was a matter of, okay, we need to do this now. And we didn't know why. We didn't know the urgency. We didn't know COVID. We were just like, hey, we just got to pull the trigger. We've talked about this long enough. Let's do it. And especially to you guys at the home office, what you did in the last 6 months to pull that off was literally 2 years worth of work. So profits could not and would not exist if it wasn't for each of you guys individually. And then I'm just honored to be part of it, because what I see it as, it goes back to the question that Jeff Bezos asked himself when he created Amazon. He heard the internet was compounding at 2,300% per year. He thought, okay, how do I catch up with that? It's physically impossible. And he asked, I think, the most important question anyone can ask in business. And when I read this in a book about him, I've asked myself this question every time: what is not going to change? So if the world's changing, the internet's changing, and so many social media sites, what is not going to change? And when it comes to entrepreneurs, what's not going to change is they will always need education to be better and more profitable. And that's where the profits comes in. The individual courses are designed around principles, pillars that will never change. And because of that, I think we have an evergreen product that we can sell for 5, 10, and 15, and 20 years. But also what I know about Renatus and what I love about them is you guys will continue to add new pillars of strength on things that will not change.
I love that. I love that a lot.
Yeah, I agree.
That's pretty phenomenal. I know that you have a personal relationship with every single one of the Profits instructors. And
some I like more than others, but yes.
Oh, who's your favorite?
Me.
Good answer.
Honestly, I love those guys.
So many jokes I could add in right now.
I feel sorry for the audience members because us instructors, we always razz each other because we're on the road and we know where all the bodies are buried and all the skeletons in the closet. And sometimes we just rip each other so hard. And I keep thinking in the back of my mind that part that says, oh, you probably shouldn't say that. I'm like, oh, no, this is really funny. And then I say it. I'm thinking, if I was an audience member, I think these guys really hate each other. No, we all love each other and have the highest respect for one another.
So funny. So funny. I know that I've had all of you guys on a conference call together a couple of different times, and I love and appreciate each one of you. And you guys bring such a high level of professionalism to the product that you're all creating, and everybody's enlisted together. Everybody's, arm in arm saying, let's go forward. Let's see where we can do to take this thing to the next level, to move it forward even further. So, I just appreciate you taking time with us today, sitting down, giving us an opportunity to laugh a little bit, share a few stories, tell us a little bit more about some of the things that have helped you to become who you are, and kind of give direction for all of us on what we can do to emulate some of the success you've created by taking some of the steps that you've taken. That's pretty phenomenal. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Can I tell you this, and for the listeners who are listening at home, let me talk about you two guys individually. You two are really the heart and soul of Renatus that people don't see. Just like we have a soul in our body that we physically cannot see, the two of you are really what makes, and Christian as well, really what makes Renatus work. And I don't think you guys get enough recognition, enough publication of your gifts. I remember, and this is a private thing, so I won't say the details of it, but I remember a conversation Matt and I had up in Bear Lake that was life-changing for me. And it was a very special moment knowing that I could trust Matt with something that was very sacred and very important to me. Jay, you and I and Whitney, we've had so many conversations in my office, on the road, different times where I know I can rely on you guys with my whole soul. And I know that the nation understands that, but they need to understand that the true success of Renatus is the home team. It's not us instructors on the road who get all the praise. It's you guys. Like, you literally make everything work. Like, Aaron right now is working behind the scenes. Everyone's behind the scenes. It's like the engine of a car. You see this beautiful Ferrari, and everyone recognizes the designer of the Ferrari, but it's the engine, the transmission. That's what makes it move. That's what you guys are. So this podcast would not exist without your brilliance. It would not exist without your spirit. So thank you guys for being who you are.
Thank you, Woody.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah.
And that's the last nice thing I'll say about you all year.
I love you too.
Yeah, I would expect nothing less.
You're the best.
Oh, man. Well, I tell you what, on behalf of myself, on behalf of Matt, and the whole Renatus family, thank you. We all,
love you, man.
we love what Renatus is. We love what Renatus has become, and we love what Renatus is becoming. And you are a big part of that. So thank you for all the time commitment and just all of the efforts that you yield on behalf of the Renatus Nation. Matt, thank you once again for being the best co-host in the world.
Couldn't do it without you, Jay.
Well, that's what makes you a co-host.
That is a good point. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, man. Well, Matt, thank you so much. I want to give props and shout outs to Mr. Aaron Peterson, our producer. And that's a wrap. That has been our podcast. So thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back with you again next week. And sooner than later, I'm hoping to go live. But for now, I hope that everybody enjoys the recordings. And don't forget, what makes Renatus truly great is each and every individual, because you rock. You rock, therefore Renatus rocks.
And this has been the Renatus Jam.
Rocking the Renatus Jam.
Yes.
Renatus, right? We hope it's good.
we hope. It's good because we had Woody.